I don't want this to be the end for his career. I want him to keep going and see if he can maybe even catch Djokovic. He's got a long way to go to do that, obviously, with 24. But the one thing with Alcaraz that's so amazing to me is he wins the big moments.
You go from coaching to literally there's no settlement, there's nothing, you're done. That's how it goes in tennis. And maybe in this situation, it wasn't entirely Carlos's doing.
When a coach wins ATP Coach of the Year on December 11th and gets fired 6 days later, something doesn't add up. That's exactly what happened to Juan Carlos Ferrero. If you've been following tennis this past year, you already know the basic story. Alcaraz and Ferrero split on December 17th. The shock announcement broke the internet for 48 hours. And then Alcaraz went to Melbourne and completed the career Grand Slam without blinking. Then on March 5th, 2026, Ferrero broke his silence on El Cafalito. Instead of walking away with dignity, he handed the tennis world exactly what it was waiting for. Raw emotion, unresolved feelings, and a confession that sounded less like a coach and more like someone who never got a proper goodbye. He said that if Alcaraz called him back, he couldn't say no.
A un año se tienen que ver ciertas cosas a nivel de contratos y bueno, pues como en todo contrato, digámoslo así, nuevo, ¿vale? De cara a lo que es el año siguiente, pues habían uno tirado para un sitio.
This was never about two people simply growing apart. The contract breakdown, the Netflix controversy, the 48-hour ultimatum, the father-coach tensions, every single thread connects back to one central power struggle, and only one side walked away clean. A player outgrowing the structure that made him is one thing. The man who built that structure admitting he still couldn't refuse, that's a different story entirely.
Alcaraz and Juan Carlos Ferrero split up, and
we got two major splits within the sport. Tennis, man. There's no other sport like it.
Yeah. Alcaraz is the man to make history here, to do all 4 major trophies at age 22.
Subscribe, because what's coming next goes deeper than any headline has dared. Because Ferrero broke his silence, and it broke something else entirely. December 13th, 2025, a Saturday, Ferrero received the contract proposal for the 2026 season. He had until Monday to accept or walk. 48 hours to decide the future of the most successful player-coach partnership in modern tennis, delivered on a weekend with no room for a proper conversation. Ferrero confirmed this himself in his December 24th interview with Marca. He described the legal arrangement as an annual contract that had always renewed automatically in previous years. For 2026, something was different. The terms had changed, and not in a direction that suggested Alcaraz's camp was genuinely trying to keep him. What were those terms exactly? Ferrero was careful. He said there were certain points he wouldn't go into publicly, but he was clear that money wasn't the core issue, directly dismissing Spanish press reports suggesting he had demanded a dramatically higher salary. The academy rivalry between his Equalate base in Villena and the Alcaraz family academy in Murcia? Also not the reason, according to Ferrero. We've never seen this as a rivalry, he told Marca, so if it wasn't money and it wasn't location, what was it? Multiple sources close to the situation pointed towards something far more personal.
Can anyone beat Carlos?
Alcaraz just too good.
Maybe even catch Djokovic.
I think Carlos wins this match to be the youngest to have ever won all 4 slams.
Carlos, he's so good.
Alcaraz is a joke right now.
Contract, maybe some other stuff.
Maybe Carlos's dad and Juan Carlos had a different vision. Some people think maybe they couldn't get a contract together.
This shifts everything for Carlos.
A lot of players trying to catch me up. They study my game. They study how I play, trying to beat me, trying to challenge me.
Contract language reportedly included what one report described as non-sporting clauses. Clauses that touched on how the player's schedule would be managed, how much autonomy Ferrero would retain, and how involved the Alcaraz family would be in day-to-day decisions. Ferrero never confirmed the specific details, but he did confirm the outcome. Perhaps it could have been resolved if we had sat down to talk, but we didn't.
Carlos Ferrero also said, hey, I would love to continue. Alcaraz himself had a really nice post saying, look, basically, thank you for everything. You've been like a mentor to me and a coach since I was barely a teenager, and they've done all these amazing things together. So it is shocking. It's a bummer.
This one kind of comes sudden, middle of December. You feel like there was a lot of rumors swirling over the last, 18 months, watching maybe Carlos's documentary, seeing maybe the dynamic with Juan Carlos and Carlos, obviously, just maybe clashing styles just a little bit, but their on-court performances.
That sentence is worth sitting with, because it tells you that this didn't end after a long, difficult conversation between two people who genuinely tried to find a solution. It ended on a deadline, quietly, through paperwork. What the Netflix documentary actually revealed. To understand why the contract reached that point, you have to go back further, to May 2025, to the release of Carlos Alcaraz, My Way on Netflix.
I think he's playing like Federer.
It's the biggest victory of his career for sure. No, I'm hungry.
If player and coach aren't getting along, that's what happens.
The documentary did what no press conference ever could. It put the internal tension between Ferrero and Alcaraz on screen for the entire world to see. Viewers watched Alcaraz chafing against the strict demands of his coach. They saw the weight of off-court commitments piling up. Sponsorships, appearances, commercial obligations, all pulling him away from the structure Ferrero had built over 7 years. But the moment that genuinely changed the atmosphere around their partnership came from Ferrero himself. On camera, unprompted, he expressed doubt about whether Alcaraz could become the greatest player in history given his approach to life off the court. The quote landed like a grenade. "It makes me doubt whether, living like that, he can become the best in history." The reaction was immediate and brutal. Fans questioned how a coach could publicly undermine his own player, a player who had just won the French Open after saving 3 match points in the final against Sinner, a player sitting at world number 1. The criticism directed at Ferrero was sharp. Some called it cruel. Others said it explained why the split was inevitable. In the March 5th El Cafelito interview, Ferrero addressed it directly. He clarified that Alcaraz always gave everything during training sessions. There was never a question of effort on the court. His concern was specifically about what happened between tournaments. The trips to Ibiza, the extended breaks, the mental resets that the team felt were risky, particularly when major tournaments followed immediately after. He pointed to the post-Roland Garros week as the clearest example. After one of the most dramatic Grand Slam victories in recent memory, Alcaraz asked for a week to decompress and do whatever he wanted. With Wimbledon starting days later, the coaching team was uncomfortable. Not because they doubted his talent, Ferrero openly acknowledged that Alcaraz could find his level with 2 days of preparation, but because an injury in that window would have been catastrophic. By March 2026, Ferrero's tone on the documentary controversy had softened noticeably. He acknowledged that Alcaraz had since proven the doubters wrong. Winning the Australian Open, completing the career Grand Slam at 22, going on a 12-match winning streak to start 2026, all of it without Ferrero in the coaching box. He is proving that being who he is capable. Ferrero admitted, if you can combine those things well, it can even serve as a beneficial reset. Coming from the man who publicly questioned whether that approach could work, that's a significant admission. The father, the family, and the power shift. There's a layer to this story that neither Alcaraz nor Ferrero has addressed directly in public, but multiple credible sources have filled in enough of the picture to understand what was building beneath the surface long before December 2025.
A more explosive tennis player ever than Alcaraz, right? As athletes evolve, is it possible that someone in 15 years' time can be even more athletic than Alcaraz, or is he at the very, very top? I mean, I don't see how it's possible, but you said that 15, 20 years ago as well.
Yeah, you said that with Rafa too, right?
I don't see how it's possible.
Exactly. But his just pure explosion, his fast twitch, I would put up with any athlete in the world, period. It's just ridiculous.
The Alcaraz family has always been deeply involved in Carlos's career. His father, Carlos Alcaraz Sr., has been a constant presence, and according to reporting from Clay and RG Media, a source of genuine friction with Ferrero. The disagreements weren't always quiet. In February 2023, Ferrero informed the camp he would not be traveling on the South American tour, delegating that responsibility to former coach Antonio Martinez Cascales. According to Clay's reporting, this triggered a heated argument between Ferrero and Alcaraz's father, one that left a mark on the relationship that never fully healed. Former Brazilian player Fernando Meligeni, who knew Ferrero well from their shared years on the ATP circuit, put it plainly in an interview with Clay months before the split was even announced. He framed the entire situation as a question of control, not just over training schedules or tournament preparation, but over the broader direction of Alcaraz's career and who held influence within the inner circle. By the time the 2025 season ended, Meligeni observed, the answer was clear. The family had won that battle. Samuel Lopez's arrival on the team ahead of the 2025 season now reads differently in this context. At the time, it was presented as a natural expansion of the coaching staff. Lopez was experienced, having worked with Pablo Carreño Busta for nearly a decade, and he understood the Spanish tennis environment well. But sources close to the situation suggested Lopez was also brought in partly to smooth the increasingly tense dynamic between Ferrero and Alcaraz's circle. He was, as Punto de Break reported, more flexible in his approach, more accommodating of the freedoms the family wanted for Carlos. Ferrero, to his credit, never threw Lopez under the bus. In the El Cafelito interview, he said he was personally the first person to encourage Lopez to accept the head coaching role after the split. "He is someone I trust completely," Ferrero said. "It reassures me that he understands the work done over the years." He admitted it stings to watch someone else stand in that coaching box, but said he's gradually making peace with it. What Ferrero is actually saying between the lines. When Ferrero sat down on El Cafelito on March 5, 2026, he came prepared to be measured. He chose his words carefully throughout most of the interview, but certain moments cut through the careful phrasing and revealed something far more unguarded. He mentioned that he and Alcaraz have spoken since the split, privately after the Australian Open victory, and again after the title in Doha. He described unfollowing Alcaraz on Instagram not as a hostile act, but as a necessary form of distance, acknowledging the irony that tennis content floods his feed regardless. He said there's a conversation still pending between them, one that involves reminiscing about shared memories rather than relitigating what went wrong.
It's been working great, there's no doubt about that, but you know who has a problem with it? The guy who served that it looks like, Novak.
Yeah, I hear that. I have the contract over there, but I haven't seen him yet, so...
Carlos Alcaraz, a win in just 50 minutes.
Well, it was really close on that match, I'd say. In the first round, in the first set, sorry. In the first set, I just had few break points that I couldn't make it, one set ball that I didn't make it.
It's the biggest victory of his career for sure, in my eyes. To be able to complete the career Grand Slam at 22 is absolutely incredible.
And then came the golf comment. Ferrero said he hopes they can play golf together at some point. It's a small detail. But in the context of everything else, the contract ultimatum, the Netflix fallout, the family tensions, the emotional weight of watching his former player win a career Grand Slam from a distance, the fact that his stated goal is a round of golf with Alcaraz says something about where Ferrero's head actually is. He's not angry, he's not bitter, he's a man who genuinely misses the relationship. Which brings everything back to that one sentence. The sentence that made headlines on March 5th and reignited every conversation this split had generated since December. If Alcaraz called him back, he couldn't say no, not "I'd consider it," not "we'd have to talk." A straight emotional admission that the door on his end is not just open, it never closed. Whether Alcaraz ever makes that call is a different question entirely.
I mean, he's on a legendary career already.
I think Alcaraz definitely got room for improvement.
It feels like we'd seen the end of that kind of Carlos Alcaraz.
They're going to look at Carlos and what he does and how he loves to be aggressive and move forward because we lost a lot of that.
I mean, Alcaraz, I'm sorry, but this guy's amazing.
You're talking about a phenom like a Carlos Alcaraz.
Carlos Alcaraz!
He's 22 years old, career Grand Slam complete, world #1, and currently on the best run of his career without the man who coached him through all 6 of his previous major titles. The leverage in this relationship has shifted completely, and both men know it. Ferrero built something extraordinary. 7 years, 6 Grand Slams, a generational talent shaped from the age of 14 into the best player on the planet.
Alcaraz. I've played Novak here. I know how hard he is to beat, and for Alcaraz to do it, was a teenager still at the time, to do it was incredible.
I think he's playing like Federer.
It's the biggest victory of his career for sure. No, I'm hungry.
Cada un año se tienen que ver ciertas cosas a nivel de contratos y bueno, pues como en todo contrato, digámoslo así, nuevo, ¿vale? De cara a lo que es el año siguiente, pues habían uno tirado para un sitio.
The split didn't erase any of that, but it did reveal something about how these partnerships eventually fracture, not through hatred, not through failure, but through the quiet, inevitable moment when a player decides he knows his own way better than anyone else does. Carlos Alcaraz called his Netflix documentary My Way for a reason. Turns out he meant it. If this kind of deep dive analysis is what you're looking for, the stories behind the stories in professional tennis, then subscribe and hit the notification bell. New breakdowns drop every week, and the next one is just as explosive as this.